scariest thing to do in a business is pivot, especially once you've hit the hardest part, which is like some revenue. Because like going from a few $1,000s a month in revenue, which with a consumer business is like pretty considerable for like a 6 months old startup, to saying, we literally went to all of our customers and we're like, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. Like you're fired as a customer.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 43 of the Andrew Deitch podcast. I am back in Atlanta and adjusting back to post-hurricane life. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, hey, welcome. Thanks for listening. This podcast is all about having great conversations with the most interesting people I can find. And today I have a very, very interesting guest for you guys. And people are always asking me the question, how do I find such awesome guests? People are always asking me questions about the podcast, but that is by far the number one question I get asked. And a lot of my guests I am already friends with, or I've met through mutual friends, or have been introduced by someone we know. But this one was actually a little different. And it all started a few weeks ago when I was eating breakfast, watching some videos on YouTube about cars, which is no surprise. You could probably find me doing this on any given morning. But I was watching some videos of a channel called VinWiki, and most of the videos on this channel are people sharing their interesting stories about cars. And I knew VinWiki was an Atlanta-based company because I follow a lot of stuff that goes on in the Atlanta car scene. But one of the videos was with this guy named Sean Henry, and it really stuck out to me. He was a lot younger than the rest of the guys on the channel, but I wasn't really sure how old he was. In his videos, he was talking about getting into an accident in his Porsche, driving on the Autobahn in Germany, and driving his neighbor's Carrera GT. And to be honest, my first thought was, this spoiled rich kid, he probably had everything handed to him. He's driving daddy's cars. But I kept watching. And I was curious, and he seemed different. Most importantly, he seemed like a really nice guy, and I was intrigued. Wanted to get the inside scoop, wanted to figure out who this guy was. So did a little bit of Facebook stalking, and I eventually found him, reached out to him. And of course, you never know how a cold message will go over, but he was really friendly, and after a few messages back and forth, we set up a time to meet at his office to record a podcast. So I knew Sean was a huge car guy, but what I didn't know is that he runs a company called Stored that he founded 2 years ago. And they've actually raised $250,000 in funding, and Inc.com named them top 30 emerging companies of 2017. Now, you may be picturing this, wealthy 30-something-year-old in your head, but Sean is actually only 20 years old, and he's currently a student at Georgia Tech University. And this dude does it all. If you've ever thought you were busy and you have no time to do anything else, then Sean will happily prove you wrong. He's, for lack of a better word, he's a workaholic. And to be honest, I don't really know how he manages to do it all, quite frankly. It's pretty inspirational. But I have to say that this was one of my favorite podcasts so far. So without any further ado, please welcome my friend, Sean Henry. Sean Henry, we're live.
Awesome. Good to be live. Is this technically live, though?
No, but yesterday I did a podcast and we did a Facebook Live. It was my first time doing that.
Awesome.
Not the first time doing Facebook Live, but the first time doing Facebook Live during a podcast.
Is it any more like nerve-wracking, or is it more interesting to get the like live feedback of people on the video?
It's like, it was just different because normally it's just after a couple minutes, you kind of forget that there's a recording thing going on sometimes, especially with these microphones that clip on. You don't have to hold anything.
Yeah, it's nothing like in front of my face. I've done I think maybe one podcast and one like quick radio thing before, and both of it was like lean into this microphone in front of your face. So it's like every time I'm speaking, I'm leaning forward.
Yeah, it's
unnatural. At a microphone.
And you've got all this contraption like between us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's not really a conversation.
Exactly. Yeah, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I feel like the best ones are the ones that feel the most natural, and I just want it to feel as natural as possible. Yeah. And the more things I have to hold or like think about.
I think the podcast of yours I listened to last night was like you guys were outside,
Oh yeah, the most recent one.
Yeah, seemed pretty organic.
That one was the most organic one of all, for sure, because that was also the one where the battery failed in the middle of it, like around like 30 minutes or so. But yeah, that one with Matt B. Davis, that one was pretty funny. He runs another podcast, which is funny. But yeah, that one probably out of all of them had the worst audio quality.
Yeah, and also a car guy.
Yes, definitely.
Car guy. That's
Definitely.
what it sounded like.
Yeah. But so for people that are listening, I always do like kind of an intro in the beginning where they kind of hear, a quick little synopsis of who you are and whatever. But just give people a brief, I guess, if you could give an elevator pitch of yourself, and then we'll kind of talk about other stuff. But if you could sum yourself up in a few sentences or whatever.
Awesome. Elevator pitch myself. My name's Sean Henry. I'm 20 years old. So right now, essentially, I am a student at Georgia Tech, a business student at Georgia Tech. I run a company called Stored. I founded about 2 years ago. We do warehousing and distribution driven by software. So we basically consolidate other people's warehouses across the U.S., resell them to businesses. Third, I guess, point would be we've raised about $250,000. So we're like a 5-person team now. I'm kind of back and forth between classes and work. The rest of the team is completely full-time. I still probably get in like 60, 70 hours a week, but there's time for homework in there sometimes very sparse. But yeah, overall as a company, we were voted Inc.com's top 30 emerging companies of 2017 in America. So that's pretty cool. But
that's crazy.
Just growing rapidly. A huge car guy, as you know. So that's kind of my driving passion outside of everything else, what I spend almost all my time
driving passion.
Yeah, not meant to be a pun, but it worked. That kind of is a big motivating factor.
Nice. That's super awesome. So like eventually, obviously, you want a fleet of
cars.
The
goal. That's the goal. We'll get there one day.
Yeah.
Not quite yet, but I don't know. Something will make it happen.
Dude, that's awesome. So you like unpacked like so many things that could go down so many rabbit holes.
I tried to just give you like the bullet pointed list.
I love it. So hopefully we can get to a lot of that. But also a lot of times people, we tend to think of individuals when we meet them as like the person they are today. Like if I meet you, I'm not thinking of you when you were 10 years old or whatever.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I like to I think everyone has a story. Some podcasts we go really deep into the story. Sometimes we just kind of like gloss over it. But just to kind of give people an idea of like, how did, not baby, obviously, because there's not too much to share there.
I'll start a little bit later.
But, 5-year-old, 10-year-old, 15-year-old, how did you get from, 10-year-old Sean to now 20-year-old Sean?
Ooh. I guess it also depends on like which rabbit hole, as you just said, we're talking about.
Yeah.
But I'd say there's kind of two main parts of my life, which is like business, cars. School's kind of in the middle of there.
Yeah.
But business and cars are the two big ones. And I think really to me and a lot of people I've met, they're really parallel because there's no one, in my opinion, who's going to motivate you to do as well in business or like have as many connections for you or something like that as these car guys who already own a Lamborghini or something, have clearly a display of success, know exactly what you're doing. And especially if you're a young guy, like if you are 10, 12, 13, and you start talking to them, all of them love to talk about their cars and they love to be kind of mentors. It's a lot harder if you're that young to get like a legitimate business mentor, I would say, like finding some random CEO who wants to talk to you and mentor you. But finding like a almost car mentor, who
that's for sure
clearly has some success. But so I don't know. My history has been always more like trying to figure out how to get to whatever point in my life that I guess is the current vision at that time. So really young, I didn't care about business or cars. Obviously, I mean, not that many people do. Maybe sometimes you have some car guys, but you rarely have a 5-year-old who's like, I just love business.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe your lemonade stand did well, but like, do you really love business? You don't know yet.
Did you? And you grew up in Georgia, right? You said you grew up in like the Georgia. Roswell, Woodstock area.
Yeah, so we have my family has a farm in Woodstock. Like, nice. we don't grow cattle or livestock or anything like that, but like a ranch or horse farm. So I grew up out in the Woodstock area where also there's, in my opinion, not as much like forward-moving business involvement for young people. I mean, there's not like I said, cars. There's not that many car shows out there when you're like 5, 10. Whereas here, you might just be out on the weekend and like run into Caffeine and Exotics at Lennox or something like that. And so I think it really started with me with like, I've had this weird knack in my life to try to figure out how to acquire something that I really want. It eventually got to cars. Luckily, I think that what I was trying to figure out. But at the time, my first involvement with like anything that kind of fuels my passions today was actually iPhones. It's like fixing, or how could I get myself an iPhone? It's really strange. It's really like niche, but I don't know, like in middle school, so I was probably, I don't know.
And those were a lot more rare when I guess, I'm 23, so I'm a few years older than you, but not much. We kind of grew up in that same weird transitionary period between like the feature phones and the smartphones.
Yeah.
So
like when we were like the Razor, all that. Yeah.
And so like in the beginning when kids got phones, they didn't get iPhones. Now today it's like every kid's got an iPhone.
Yeah, everyone listening to this is probably like, is he being serious right now? But I don't know. It's like,
Did you have a phone at the time?
At the time, no. So I remember back to like my mom getting like a flip phone, a Razor, and it was like, this is the coolest phone there is in existence. Everyone was like staring at it, all sorts of stuff. Because back then there wasn't like as much innovation in just mobile devices and electronics as there is now. So any sort of like small step forward was a huge deal. Whereas now it's like you can do virtual reality and no one cares. It's just like, yeah, sure.
You just need a rectangular slab with a touch screen.
And it's like the best phone ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm a triplet. That's another thing.
Whoa.
I'm a triplet, yeah. So I have triplets, and we're the younger ones, and I have an older brother and sister who are twins.
Whoa, so that's crazy.
There's a lot of us.
That's pretty common though, right? Like if you have twins, like it's also pretty common that you would have another set of twins, or is that pretty weird?
No, I think it's pretty common. So like,
how you doing?
What's up?
You got a quick second?
Not exactly.
We can pause it. It's all good.
Here, text me.
It's all good.
I'll text you later, John.
All right, thank you.
Later, man. I'm not even going to cut it out. I think it's kind of funny.
You can leave it in.
I think it's kind of funny. Is that someone you work with?
Yeah, he's one of our sales guys.
Nice.
So he's late in the office, obviously. It's 8:30, but
nice.
Grinding it out.
I like it. We were saying triplets and twins, and is it weird to have that or not really?
Well, see, that's like the first question. But if you think about it from my perspective, it's like, I don't know. It's kind of normal. It's just what I'm used to, I guess.
Yeah.
Never experienced, like, is it weird to be a single child or not a multiple?
Yeah,
I guess it's called.
Yeah. Is it? Yeah. What is that called? Just non-identical, non-twins. Yeah.
But like both of my mom's parents and my dad's parents were both twins. So I feel like that has to have something to.
Yeah,
some
definitely
sort of
something happened with it.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah, but we have a lot of weird triplet stories I could tell. Like.
And are you identical triplets, or is it?
I really hope not, because they're both girls. So I like to think not. Be kind of an insult.
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously. But yeah, all sorts of weird triplet things that have just come out in life, like Georgia, Northside Hospital, first natural-born triplets.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Natural born is because are most of them done by C-section?
Yeah, like a huge majority. Second,
was that like a thing your mom was super adamant about, or was it just like it seems like that's the way it's going to happen? Or
I've never really asked.
Because I know some people are like really adamant they don't want to get cut open, so they're like, we want it to be as natural as possible, no epidural. I didn't know if that was the case or whatever.
I don't think so. I think it just seemed like that's the way it was going to go.
Yeah.
Better.
It's weird to ask your mom about that stuff.
Weird things to ask about. What's another one? Oh, we actually found out we had like the most combined triplet weight at birth record for like until like 2014 or 15, because we were each like 7 pounds, and normally triplets are like 3 to 4 or 5.
That's crazy. So your mom already had twins, and so she's probably like, whew, at least we got that over. And then she had the heaviest triplets of all time.
Let's just have one more, and then we'll have like 3 more. But
jeez,
I like to think it worked out. I mean,
that's awesome.
We all get along. I think she likes us still.
Well, it's kind of nice, like, because a lot of the times having a kid is all about kind of getting over those first years of like, okay, thank God, now at least he can walk. Or like, okay, thank God, now at least he can go to the bathroom by himself or whatever. So it's like when you have, if you wanted to have 3 kids and you have to have them all separate, it's like you're in all different phases all at once. At least with like 3 at the same time, they're all in the same phase.
Exactly. You like think you understand it for the first kid and you're like, I'll have another one. But no, it was like, here, just try them all at once.
Exactly.
Because my older sibling's only like 2 years older. So it's like,
so you guys are all super
a lot of
close.
Babies. Yeah.
That's crazy. Like that's probably pretty rare to have 5 kids all within 2 years of each other.
Yeah. So I like to think it makes us closer. I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
Especially with the like triplet telepathy, it might be a thing. We're still convinced it is, but we'll see. There might be like some report one day that finally disproves or proves.
So you
that
have 2
type of stuff.
sisters who are your triplets, and then
Older brother and sister.
Older brother and sister.
Yeah,
so no identicals.
No identicals. No.
I feel like that's kind of better. Because if you have the
it'd be
identical
weird.
thing, it's like super competitive.
It'd be weird. Because then, I don't know, there's always that whole like, is this the one I really named whatever?
Yeah.
Who knows? Like if you have two boys that are identical when they're babies and like you don't look at them for 5 minutes, it's like, I think this was him.
Yeah. That is a little bit weird.
I mean, I'm sure they get through it just fine, but I don't know. But what were we talking about?
I don't know. We were just kind of talking about growing up. You said you lived on a farm and all that, but not really not like crop farm, but you just had a lot of land basically, right?
Just like some land, interesting animals, hanging out. And I don't know. So I just got really interested in like...
You said the iPhone thing.
The acquisition of things, like as a goal. And so I don't know if there's any more pressing matter for middle schooler back in like 2007, 2008 than like getting cell phones.
Yeah.
And so I think I was a 6th grader and the iPhone had just come out and like my parents didn't want to give me a phone till I think 7th or 8th grade. Like it wasn't that common back then.
Yeah.
Like only probably half of the class had phones by graduation, like middle school graduation, whatever that means.
And were you at a private school?
Yeah.
So then even like, because I feel like a lot of times public school kids, the parents are kind of freaking out a little bit. So they give them phones, whereas I went to a private school for middle school too.
Exactly.
So I didn't get a phone until like 8th grade or 7th grade too.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It's just like someone's always there watching you, and then your parents pick you up. So like, what do you need a phone for?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I didn't live in a neighborhood, so I was never running around. So I was like, there's no need for a phone.
You had your own little neighborhood of 5 kids.
Yeah, just so many kids there, right there. But yeah, so the first thing I did in business, and I think it just kind of got me hooked on like doing things, was actually in middle school. My strategy became to buy these like completely destroyed, shattered, whatever iPhones on eBay. Actually, but right before that, it was to fix them. So I'd just be charging people like, I don't know, $50 to fix an iPhone.
Back then it was a lot easier too.
It's so much easier. The screens were so much cheaper. It was like 2 ribbon cables. Now it's like you have to take apart different chassis pieces of
and they made the LCD and the glass all one thing.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah,
you know, the first iPhone, you could literally replace just the glass if you were really good at it, because you could like get a razor and get it all off. Then there were like certain things you get the glue off with. And now it's like if you even touch it, it breaks. You just have to replace the whole thing.
Yeah.
But so I started like repairing people's phones, mostly just friends and family. Then like eBay became a huge thing for me. So I had been notorious for selling any presents I didn't want on eBay since I was like really young. So like, yeah, I don't want that RC car. It's going on eBay. I don't know. It's just fun. And eventually, after fixing them, I started buying them and buying broken ones, fixing them, selling them, until I just bought a broken one and kept it. And it was like, now, how does this kid have an iPhone when he's so young, and everyone else is like barely getting a flip phone? I'm like, well, I don't know. I've just been fixing iPhones for 2 years now.
So you bought a broken one and then fixed it yourself, but never like had to give it back to anybody because it was yours.
Yeah, so I started fixing them, then I started buying them and selling them until I was like, okay, I'll just keep this one. That makes sense. It made sense to me. But I feel like that sort of strategy kind of stayed. But it was just around the same time that I was like getting into cars, because there was always like I have the funniest. It sounds weird, but going to a private school for high school, you have to like apply. Most like public schools, people are like, "What do you mean you apply to high school?" It sounds hilarious hindsight. Like, a big middle school application to high school. But my story was literally about how I didn't understand why my brother liked cars so much. Like, that was my story applying to high school. I was like, all the car is supposed to do is get you point A to point B. Like, I don't understand what his whole deal with always watching car videos, like playing Forza, researching car prices. Because he was like, when I was in 8th grade, he must have been like a sophomore at the time.
So he was like about to get a car.
Yeah, so he was so into it. And I was like, what is all this attention going towards? And actually, I was in 7th grade. He was a freshman. And or I guess I was going in 8th grade. And no, I was in 8th grade applying to high school. And so he was a sophomore. And I don't know, something just like clicked. I think I remember the video, actually. I watched one video of like a yellow 2004 Lamborghini Gallardo on YouTube. And
do you remember who made the video or anything?
I wish I could find it. Like, I've never seen it again. I clearly remember the video. Like, if someone showed it to me, I would know. And all of a sudden it just clicked, and I was like, this is so cool. Like, yeah, I probably spent like 6 hours that night just watching random YouTube videos of cars. And ever since then, it just stuck. And I like to think I act kind of quickly. So like, this was mid 8th grade. Within like the next month, have you ever heard of a kit car?
Yeah,
It's like
definitely.
a car you like assemble.
Yeah, like what's the Vador that they used in like
those are
Suicide
cool.
Squad? It's like a G35
it's a
conversion.
G35 converted. I would probably never drive one of those now. Like, not a Vador, those are cool, but like, there's replica cars.
Totally.
So people build like Lamborghini Diablos on stretched Pontiac Fiero chassis, stuff like that. And I got this bright idea that I was like, what are you in 8th grade? 14? I don't know, something
yeah,
like that.
14, 13, because sophomore, typically you turn 16, you get a car, whatever.
Yeah, something like that. That I could get like a completely salvaged Toyota MR2, like stretch it, take it all apart, put a Ferrari body kit on it, and like completely assemble it. And I was like, by the time I am 16, I'm gonna have what's pretty much a Ferrari, and it's gonna be awesome.
Was your dad into cars or anything? Or your
The
parents?
funniest part is my dad could not care less about a car. Like, he doesn't understand. He likes my car. Like, he's always like nice about it, but he just doesn't understand.
Yeah. Did he have the tools though? Because that's a big part of it. I feel like if you're gonna like try to put together a kit car, I mean, obviously, yeah, you can buy all the stuff, but if you don't have the right tools, like that's a big issue.
Well, we lived on a farm, so like we had tractors, we had all sorts of things like that. Million riding lawnmowers for like massive fields, tractors, all this.
So there's all kinds of tools to fix those things.
All this horse equipment. So it's like all these tools. We had 2 barns. Like, one of them was just this completely empty, like disgusting, filled with childhood stuff barn. And I was like, that's my barn. Like, I'm gonna build a car in there.
That's
so
awesome.
I cleared out like half of it. Managed to and no, I did not pay for like a kit car when I was 14 or 15. But like, all my siblings were gonna get like some sort of mid-range budget car. So like, if I buy a salvage car for like $3,000 and then a body kit for like $2,000, that's pretty cheap in comparison to most cars. And so like, by the end of middle school, I was working on this car. I found it in Florida. It was like some guy had already started it, and he had the body kit, and he had like a half disassembled car, completely separate. And so he just wanted to dump them. And I went down and I got there, and it was just like complete crap in comparison to the photos.
What was it?
It was like one of the older Ferrari 360 body kits.
Okay.
Like convertible. And it was a Toyota MR2. And he posted these pictures of like this beautifully primed and sanded, ready to go body kit on a car. And I got there, and it was just none of that. And keep in mind, like,
how did you get the pictures? Were they just from the internet?
I think they were just like stock photos, like not stock photos, but like from forums and stuff like that. But you couldn't like reverse image shirts and stuff back then. Like, I have no idea.
What a douche.
Probably talked to this guy
and
once.
You're like 15 or 14 or something.
Yeah, I was like 14. What was I gonna do? Get there and be like, this is awful. I'm not buying this. I was like, yeah, I was so excited. Cool. So we picked it up. Hindsight, probably should have just been like, yeah, I'm not buying this. But bought it. I still spent the next probably 2 years working on it. So it was really close to done. The problem was my family for high school. So I went to high school in Buckhead. We moved like towards Atlanta, and
sold the farm.
No, luckily we kept the farm.
Okay.
This was only gonna be like 4 years.
Gotcha.
We just moved somewhere temporary, And then they moved back after we finished high school and sold the place down here. But it was like, how am I supposed to go to high school, go there, work on a car, and like come back and forth when I can't even drive yet? That's the whole premise of working on this car. Like, I can't drive.
So that when you turned 16, you could drive this epic.
Yeah. So how am I supposed to go work on it? So it became a huge problem. Like, stopped making progress. But I'm pretty close to done. Like, the funniest was. So there's a field in front of the barn, and one time my mom drove me there. I was like, oh, you got to watch this. And she was like standing out there, and I came out driving. I did like a donut in front of her. She was a little bit mad, but she was also like, how did you learn to drive a manual? Because they were like, he doesn't even know how to drive this car. Like, who cares?
We were just the whole time like, oh, he's just silly working on a toy. At least he can like.
What do you mean? I've been like trying to drive this for months now. But I think that incident was kind of like the downfall of everything. Because then it was like, do we really want to let a 16-year-old drive like a car he just assembled in a barn? Like, he doesn't. It's not gonna have airbags.
The wheels gonna fall off.
Like, what's gonna happen? And so they wanted me to sell it. I ended up selling it.
You sold it for more than you got it for, though. Kind of.
I mean, it was hard to tell at that point. Probably like a little bit more than I bought it for, I think.
But not the man hours.
In general, all the sunken costs, no. Probably lost a good amount of money on it. But I mean, it was like a really good experience. Like, that led way into high school, which is what I started doing was brokering cars. So like, I went to sell this car on eBay. That was my sophomore year, so it'd been like 2 or 3 years. And I realized that all these people who post like all these, if you take like an average, I don't know, 50-year-old Ferrari owner, let's say. He doesn't know how to use Auto Trader, eBay, like nice photos, stuff like that. So you end up with all these guys who have like a cell phone picture and one sentence about their car, trying to sell it for like MSRP, like what you'd go to Lamborghini Atlanta and buy the car for.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I was watching them. I just kept watching them on eBay, and I was like, none of these are ever selling. Like, what are these guys doing?
Yeah. Unless someone is like looking for that specific one, it's like a super rare, they might hit them up and be like, fly out there just to check it out. But they're not going to buy it just based on the pictures and that one sentence description.
Exactly. So when you have like the most basic red and tan Ferrari that there's 40 others of, and you're asking exactly what a dealer's asking, like, it never sells. But then if you take it to a dealer, it's like, I don't know, 20% cheaper they're going to give you. They're going to just cut the price because they have to make their margin, especially those cars because they sit in their inventory for so long in comparison. And that was like right in the middle of there is when I had met Ed, we were just talking about before from VinWiki. He was at Lamborghini Atlanta at the time. He became a really good friend.
How did you guys meet?
So I just showed up at Lamborghini Atlanta one day, hanging out. He was always...
It's a cool place to hang out if you're a kid.
Cool place to hang out if you're a kid. He's just the nicest guy. There's never like a kid who walked on the lot who like, I don't think he took for a ride, something like that. Super nice. And so I was just walking around a car out front, and he came out and talked to me, gave me his business card. Probably I went back, I don't know, a few months later, saw him again, asked him for a ride in one of his cars because I also skimmed over. I was also making YouTube videos of cars at the time.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I was, it used to be like a critically acclaimed thing to be a YouTube partner. Because like now if you're anyone, you can have ads. But back, once again, like 5 years ago, you had to have like approval by YouTube to be a partner.
And a certain amount of subscribers and all that.
To have ads. And so like I became a YouTube partner making videos of these cars, making like a little bit of money. I had made some videos of like the cars building. And one time like Ed and I were talking about it, and I went for a ride with him to make one of the videos. And I don't know, I think just from there, it's just like, that kind of solidifies like an early friendship. I still was only like 15, I don't know, 16.
You said, you can kind of have these car mentors, where normally it'd be kind of creepy for a grown man to be friends with a 15-year-old and hanging out. But
if you're just like, I'm going to go to this guy's office and hang out, it's like, that's a little weird. Yeah. But if it's like, that guy's going to want to go out and drive his own car, he knows you're going to have a blast in it.
Was he taking you out in like his personal cars or in the cars that were in the inventory and stuff?
Primarily cars in inventory. I gotta like hate on Ferrari of Atlanta a little bit right here. There's a big difference between Lamborghini Atlanta and Ferrari Atlanta, the two dealerships here. Ferrari Atlanta guys, they're always nice. The most they'll ever let you do though is like sit in a car, I think. I've gone there, sat in cars. Ferrari of Fort Lauderdale, they are the nicest people in the world. I've seen other people on YouTube and stuff say the exact same thing. I've never met anybody nicer. Like, this guy, I just walked in, he took me into the back where you're not supposed to go, where they're like servicing these cars, like let me sit in a Ferrari F40, which is like a holy grail of a car, and just like walked us all around. Like revved a Lamborghini Reventon, like there's only like 20 of those. And I'm like, and I come to Ferrari Atlanta, and they like don't really like it if you're on the lot taking videos. But Lamborghini Atlanta is awesome, super accommodating. So, I mean, since then I've like gone on test drives there and stuff. But at the time, just like one of their salespeople taking me out to say like, yeah, if you're ever like 1 year, I feel like they invest in people. They're like 20 years from now, like, yeah, we want you guys to come back here, so we're gonna
playing the long game's important, man.
Oh, it's super important.
Because dude, you don't realize that 15-year-old kid that you told to scram like off the lot, he's gonna remember that forever, and hopefully your dealership will be around by the time he can hopefully afford one of these things if he's into cars.
Exactly, and like. Odds are, well, I mean, if you think about it from their perspective, though, if they're only like 5 years old, they haven't experienced like the deficit of that, of like all these people turning that age in this area. I don't think it's really going to hurt them like notably, but at the same time, it could give a ton of business to them.
Well, right now you're on this podcast and people are listening to this and they're like, Ferrari Atlanta might not be the coolest place to go if I'm trying to like learn about, like whatever.
Exactly.
You know? And that's just the power of the internet and word of mouth today.
Exactly. And that's what what is it called? Prestige Imports in Miami did really well. Brett David, whose cars you were next to in that picture, very jealous. They're the same way as Lamborghini Atlanta, and it's all over social media, all over charity and car events, just investing in like their brand and consumer base, rather than just being like, oh, we have great cars, people come here, like just ignore them.
I've been there twice now, and both times been very, very nice. I actually met Brett last time.
Really?
He was super cool. He's like, hey, if you guys need anything, just let me know. I'll be walking around. If you have any questions, whatever. And I'm kind of like, that's Brett David. Oh my God. Like I was just freaking out.
Same way.
I was like staring like into this Pagani wire, and I'm like, hey, But he was super nice. He was super, super cool.
That's cool. I've always wondered, like, seeing his social media, what he'd be like.
Yeah, and it's crazy, too, like, when you walk into the dealership, pretty small place. I mean, there's, like, obviously,
it's like
a Lamborghini dealership isn't
going
to, it's not going to employ too many people in the office area. And so he's got, like, 5 or 6, 7 offices, and then his office just kind of right smack dab in the middle of the showroom. And when I walked in there, like, his doors were open, he was just in there, like, on the phone.
So that's awesome, though. Yeah. I like that. I like that better. But yeah, they do that really well. So yeah, I don't know. I just got to know Ed, taking videos of cars. So at that point, I was like, there's so many people trying to sell their cars that don't want to just go consign it to the closest exotic car dealer that's going to kill them on price, and odds are they're only going to buy it if you're trading it in for another car. Like, those dealerships don't really just buy that many cars. Like, especially more of an independent one like Lamborghini Atlanta, they're not out there to just buy your car. They get them from other places. And so I did what any interested teenager would do, and started just messaging all these random guys on eBay. Like, I'd be happy to sell your car. Like, I broker exotic cars, even though I've never sold an exotic car in my life before. Just messaging all these people on eBay, and I don't know where my first customer came to date. I've always wondered, because I just got a text one time that was like, hey, I heard you sell cars, whatever. I have a 2002 Ferrari 575 that I've been trying to sell. And that was like my first start into brokering any cars. I didn't make a massive business of it, but I primarily got into repairs after that, like paint work and stuff like that, because I had done it so much in the car I was working on. So I was always be doing repairs and stuff like that through high school. The company was called Premier Auto Management.
Did you do it up at your parents' farm, or where were you like actually doing it?
I was going like to the people, like their garages, stuff like that. Because I was doing like touch-up paint, getting out dents, body work, stuff like that. Nothing that required like heavy-duty equipment, just like light touch stuff. Nothing mechanical, stuff like that. But I met a few guys who had like Ferrari collections or stuff like that, who I got to do some cool work for.
Were you ever like nervous to work on like that expensive of a car?
Oh yeah, it was nerve-wracking. I mean, those type of people would never let you do anything crazy. Mm-hmm. They don't want to. They wouldn't necessarily let like a 15-year-old, or I guess I was 16 or 17 at this time, work on their Ferrari with like a sander or anything like that. Like, yeah, I swear I'm just gonna go fix that panel. So I think it was a lot of like,
I can just imagine that.
it was a lot of like mid-tier cars I did more work on, like maybe some M3s, stuff like that. Not to insult M3s, just compared to a Ferrari. But I only really tried to sell and was selling those higher end. My first experience selling that 2002 Ferrari went awfully.
Really?
Like, the guy kind of was scamming me. He gave me the wrong VIN number. So I like had him take it to someone else who I knew through some connections who was like interested in buying it. A consignor, like a different broker who buys them himself, and he ran the VIN number and was there, and he's like, this isn't what you gave me. And I was like, what are you talking about? And yeah, it ended up being a big problem. Don't ever try to sell a wrecked Ferrari or like a previously wrecked Ferrari. It is impossible. Because this guy was trying to have me get him like market value for the car when a damage history Ferrari is like so much cheaper, it's sinful.
It's like Pawn Stars, where like the guy's like, I'm thinking about 70 grand. He's like, $5. And he's like,
okay.
Let's meet in the middle, $7.
Yeah, that's what it felt like, and so that was a bad experience. But yeah, I kept fixing cars, and then that's just like how I kept getting cooler cars, I guess.
That's awesome.
So
were
like,
your siblings like trying to do kind of scrappy jobs like that, or were they like doing like normal stuff?
I feel like most of them are kind of just like, what are you doing? Most of the time, we like to joke in my family that we're almost like the stereotypical family, like one of everything.
Huh.
Like we got like an actress, a doctor, a lawyer, and a writer, and I guess an entrepreneur.
That's
so
awesome.
Like every major category you have knocked off somewhere. Now most of us are still like students. I'd say the actress and the to-be doctor. The other two have graduated.
To be doctor
now.
probably has a few more years.
Many more years. Many more
It
years.
was a long endeavor.
Probably like, I don't know, 6 at this point. I couldn't do it. Train of thought, let's see.
But I was just saying, like, were your siblings doing like normal stuff at this point? They just kind of thought you were
just
crazy.
Doing normal
like,
stuff. Like,
what's he doing selling? What now? He's selling cars. He was selling iPhones. What the heck?
Yeah.
Like, and when you were working on that project car, you said your older brother was like into cars. Did he kind of get into that, or did you take it to a whole other extreme?
I think I took it to an extreme. So like I quickly, and he would laugh about this. I quickly surpassed his like car in depth or knowledge, and like I think I've gotten him to 2 car shows over the years, and like I rarely miss them.
Yeah. That's how I kind of I try to get my friends to come or whatever, and it's always like I'm sleeping, bro, and I'm like I'm still gonna go.
Yeah,
like I'm gonna go by myself.
I don't care if you're there. I'm gonna go.
Exactly.
But yeah, so around that time, was just doing random stuff like that. Stopped doing that business as high school was coming to a close. A lot of fun, but I mean I don't know. I feel like for my age at least, I've gotten some cool experiences with business, just doing like everything. Like I can say I've done X, Y, and Z, even if I don't do them anymore. Like there was one point where I was a day trader, and that was like in high school. And so I'd like go into class having had made a trade, and day trading you want to sell like really fast sometimes. I'm talking like intraday. And so I'd like come out of class and I'd be like, I just lost like hundreds of dollars. Like this sucks.
Because you couldn't get rid of it. Because
like,
you were
I can't
in
check
class,
my phone. Like what's going
sucks.
on? So I hated that. I hated it so much. And so I was kind of like going to the end of high school like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like I like entrepreneurial stuff. I didn't really have like anything massively taking off, but I mean, it was high school, so I didn't.
But you got into Georgia Tech, so you probably had pretty good grades. Like you were keeping up with school. It wasn't like you were just like bumming off, like doing bad.
Oh no! I don't think that'd be allowable in my my parents' eye.
I feel you.
No, they're not strict about that at all. It's just like all my siblings are hyper competitive in regards to class and schooling, I guess.
Probably because you're all like the same age too. Everyone's always trying to like one up the.
Yeah. So, but then I mean that brings the next great point. Going to college was a really hard choice. Not like going, but where to go. Because I don't know, I had like 4 siblings. One went to Brown, one went to Bowdoin, which is like really small liberal arts school, super hard to get into in Maine. One went to Haverford, also super small liberal arts, and one went to NYU. And like no one even, I was the only one who even applied to Georgia Tech. And I only applied as like a major backup as like yeah, who cares? I'll apply to Georgia Tech.
That is funny because I think a lot of people would not consider Georgia Tech their backup. Like a
I
lot of
don't
times
know. I don't
people
know.
are
It's just
really
like-
like, especially with the Hope Scholarship in Georgia, so a lot of people are like really vying for the Georgia or Georgia Tech thing.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and that's what hooked me. So like, luckily, I'm a Dean Scholar at Georgia Tech. So like, I don't want to say this on record, but I will. I actually I get a check from Georgia Tech every semester because I have an excess in the Dean Scholarship, which is luckily privately controlled. It's not like the state, because they don't do that with like Zell or Hope or anything, but like the independent scholarships are like that. And so I got into most of those schools like my siblings. I was like desperately trying to decide between Brown, UNC, Chapel Hill, and UCLA. And just like last minute, Georgia Tech had me on campus to do this Dean Scholarship event. And I was like, okay, this is actually pretty interesting. Like, I like it here. I wouldn't have to pay anything. I'd be right in my backyard. And a huge deciding factor to me was, you might know this from watching that video on VinWiki, but we haven't talked about this. Car mentors. I met a super awesome car mentor for me at that point. Happened to be one of my nearby neighbors. It's hard to explain that, no, it's not like my parents just had these crazy rich friends or anything like that. But in Buckhead, the house prices can be astronomically different, like side by side.
Yeah, it's totally true.
It's totally true. Like, you can be in a $500,000 house that's like kind of old, and then the next one to you is like $12 million or something ridiculous.
Right next door.
Those differences like that, it's ridiculous. And so I just kept seeing this guy down the street, my next door neighbor actually. I'd never met him, go in and out of his house with Porsches, like almost always Porsches, Mercedes AMGs, stuff like that, always different cars. And I was like, what is going on over there?
Was he a foreign dude or was he an American?
Yeah, so they had just moved there from Germany.
Okay.
So they're German.
Because in the video, you never explicitly said that, but every car, it seemed like, was like a German car, and then you said you went over to Germany with him. So I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense if that's the case.
They're German. Both of them had lived in the U.S. when they were younger, and then they were bringing their kids here. So super close, just became super close. Once again, I know them way better than my parents know them. I've known them for 5-6 years now, and just gotten super close. And once again, I don't know if you ever saw any of that, the VinWiki video, people will make fun of it so hard that you're friends with a 45-year-old or whatever. But it's more okay, first I'm going to drive the neighbor's son in my car. He loves cars. Then it's oh, wow, this kid likes business. He's interested in what I do for a living. Then yeah, I'd be happy to show you. And the coolest part was hyper successful businessman, also on a race team in Germany. So always doing cool things with cars. And I was I got to be like this guy. I got to get to know everything about him as possible. And I think he helped cement me going to Georgia Tech because it was a pretty good decision for me at that point. And he was I had been bugging him for 3 years since I met him to let me work at his company for one of the summers, every time I saw him. And he finally took it seriously when I was graduating high school. And so right when I was making the decision, he said he would let me work for his company that summer. And he was yeah, I'm really excited for if you stay at Georgia Tech, the opportunities over the next few years when working together. And I was all right, I'm going to Georgia Tech. That's it. I'll stay here.
That's really cool.
If I go to another city, I don't have these connections, this opportunity. I just got to start all this from scratch. And does that?
Exactly. And most kids, I feel don't really have that kind of cool foundation. Because, most high school kids are not really, I don't know, focusing on stuff like that or even having mentors or whatever. And you might not even thought of him as a mentor in that case, but it was just this is my cool ass neighbor who has awesome cars. I want to hang out with this dude. And then over the years, it would just kind of form that awesome relationship.
Yeah.
That's a valuable thing to have.
It's super valuable. No, I mean, I think mentors are the number one thing. I remember the story my mom will always tell is she thought it was creepy at first. I was messaging these random guys on online. But do you know Shmee 150?
Yeah.
So when he had
I met him one time, for 2 seconds.
Really?
Yeah.
Tim or whatever his name is.
Hi guys, I'm Shmee.
that was scary good. You got to put a link somewhere in this podcast. That was creepy.
Today we are good. I'm not going to go
really good at that.
I'm pretty good at accents.
But for example, one of his first videos on YouTube, he made this video of him buying a 2010 V8 Vantage, a blue one, really early on, and
Aston Martin for people who are...
Aston Martin.
For people who don't know.
And so I messaged him and was like, dude, what do you do for a living? Because that was always my burning question, like trying to figure out what are all the commonalities between these people. I wasn't doing any of it. I was like 14, but I was on YouTube all the time seeing these guys, and I was always curious. I think now he's just like a huge personality ads, but at the time he like owned a local video game store chain, and he had sold it. And I thought that was pretty cool. And then he was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna make some YouTube videos now. For those of you who don't know, once again, he has like millions of subscribers now.
Yeah,
he's one of the biggest YouTubers.
Yeah, definitely one of the biggest car YouTubers. And he's kind of a weird dude. Like his personality is like very odd, and like his whereas a lot of these car guys are pretty like trendy and stuff, he's always wearing like very like
a sweater and like a button down.
He's just so British. It's perfect.
Yeah, it's hilarious. He's like only
like
buys Aston Martins and like McLarens.
Yeah.
Two British cars.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's funny, man.
He's a hilarious dude. But yeah, always looking for mentors. And so I actually, going into college, I made the decision like I'll stay in Atlanta, even though that's kind of weird compared to all my siblings leaving. I'll be the only one here. But I still think it was an awesome decision because one, I knew Georgia Tech, once again, Scheller, the business school where the scholarship comes from, is like way more hands-on than you would expect any sort of like just normal university to be. And so they were hardcore trying to convince me. This other guy who I considered a huge mentor, someone I really wanted to be like, was trying to convince me. And just the monetary component, I don't think enough people consider with college that like, regardless of if I were to pay for the school I went to or not, I'd still want to think about like the input to output I expected to get. Mm-hmm. Like how much are you going to pay going to a normal liberal arts school? Like tens of thousands of dollars.
Definitely. And like there's no way in today's economic climate to work a part-time job through college and pay for it off unless you're doing something extraordinary. You own your own business like what you're doing.
I'll get to that.
Exactly. Like you're doing a lot more than what a typical college student would be doing in their off time for sure, I think. Most of the college students I know at least. But where was I going with that? But the thing that I've heard argued so much, and like I listen to a lot of I guess non-traditional motivational kind of stuff. Yeah. And what a lot of times people are talking about is like you get these kids saddled down with all this debt. And like, thankfully, you were able to have like a scholarship, which is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
A lot of kids, they don't really think about that monetary input-output kind of thing. And instead of, they think that they're going to go out into the world and I'm going to get my first job and starting at zero. But you're really not starting at zero. You're starting at negative. Yeah. Because you've got to work your way through this pile of debt that you've accumulated.
Yeah.
And just because you got government loans, they're not free. You got to pay them back.
Oh yeah, they're super expensive. It's ridiculous. I mean, I recognize some of that. Do you know like Secret Entourage? You follow that?
Yeah, a little bit. Actually, I'm not like super into it, but I've followed some of their stuff.
But like, so stuff
who's
like
the main guy again behind it?
Pejman Gadimi.
Yeah.
So like I knew him kind of around the same time I knew Ed. Knew him for just a little bit. All sorts of stuff. Do you remember Robert Himmler?
Robert Himmler, no.
No, he's another guy. So like, really sad, died at 23, like 2 years ago. But he had started on YouTube from the time he was 18, like huge in the car world, making these videos of like, he had got a Lamborghini Gallardo when he was 18. I'm not sure he bought it. Unfortunately, I think it was like his parents helped him buy it because he had cancer and it was very sad.
Wow, I feel like I've heard this story and I've probably seen some of his videos.
Super sad, very upsetting, but like he was super motivational. And I actually got the chance to work for him because like I reached out to work with him. He had a website called Triplets, R8PL8Z.
That sounds so bad. It sounds like you're saying rape plates.
Yeah, it sounds bad, but
rape plates.
It's like a funny license plate website.
Yeah.
Like these niche blogs used to be a huge thing. And so like I got to know
plates. So it was like rating other people's funny like novelty license plates.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And so like I messaged him on YouTube because I was like becoming a partner. I was like, hey, what do you do? I'm super interested. And we ended up working together on this website. I never made any money from it. But it was just fun, like really interesting to see what he was doing and how he was doing it, making some good money. He kind of was like, in my opinion, the forefront of the whole make a personal brand on YouTube and then like start all these ancillary businesses, websites, and like monetize it way more than just YouTube ads, which is like kind of a big thing now. Like so many people do it. Gary Vaynerchuk, like all those guys, that's all they do. Ty Lopez, hilarious.
Ty Lopez, love him or hate him, you got to give him a little bit of credit.
He's brilliant.
He's brilliant. Like the weird, quirky things he does, like some of them are kind of like, I don't know about that, but he's smart.
He makes it work. I think like Pejman Gadimi, I'm friends with him on Facebook, Secret Entourage guy. He posted some statistics about him once. I haven't been able to find anywhere else, but it was like Ty Lopez's YouTube video budget is now like $13 million a year for like YouTube ads. It's ridiculous. Every time I open a YouTube video, no matter how many times I click skip, for the past like 5 years, he's the only person I see.
Really?
It's ridiculous.
Probably just based on all your cookies and all the stuff you watch.
All my stuff.
That's interesting.
It's ridiculous.
I'm one of those suckers that pays for YouTube Red, so I don't watch ads anymore.
I'm kind of jealous. Is it a good service?
I don't use it for any of the exclusive content. That's what a lot of people want to use it for. You pay $10 a month. Mainly, the reason why I initially got it was because I was going overseas and I have a lot of YouTube, I don't watch much TV, but I absorb a lot of content on YouTube. And so I wanted to be able to download videos on Wi-Fi and then watch them later. And there's obviously ways of doing that on your computer or whatever, but I wanted it to be on my phone. And that's one of the cool things that they allow you to do within the app once you have YouTube Red, is you can download them and watch later. And then also another cool thing is you can sleep the app or go press away from it and it'll play in the background.
Yeah,
which is like a stupid feet that they're making you pay for that, because that should just be a feature out of the box. But hey, I got suckered into it. But you're also, within paying the $10, you don't have to pay for ads. You don't have to watch ads ever. So
it's kind of nice.
It is kind of nice because, a lot of times I want to support YouTubers and stuff. And so a lot of the times...
Don't click the ads.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to click the ads.
Well, when I was a YouTube partner, I got banned because too many people clicked my ads that they thought were like helping me. Like, because if you click someone's ads repeatedly trying to help them as a YouTuber, it's called invalid click activity. So AdSense by Google, by YouTube, will just ban you, and like the reinstatement process takes forever.
But people were legitimately clicking, or were they trying to help you or something?
I mean, I never asked anyone to click my ads, but like they track the IP so that, and like your friend goes on your YouTube video. They think they're going to help you if they click your ad every time they go on it. But then YouTube's like, okay, this guy's just getting a bunch of friends to click his ads because a click can equal like $5. And so got banned. Very sore spot back then. But
that sucks.
But oh well. So YouTube Red is kind of a cool service. I've just never.
Yeah. This episode is not sponsored by YouTube Red.
Yeah, absolutely not. I don't think they do much of that, because then like all the content they would sponsor would probably be on YouTube.
Exactly.
Anyways,
Very
true.
But we were talking about you were working for that guy with the rate plates thing, and then
that was going back a little bit. But so I'd always been doing these interesting things.
Yeah.
I had just been like saving money, doing cool businesses, never done anything crazy, knew how to flip cars and make a good profit. And so finally I was going to do like a real job, work at this guy's company right before college. And super rewarding experience. It was like 2 weeks into summer. I hadn't heard anything from him. And he sent me, I think it was like 29 plane tickets, just like out of the blue. Whoa. And he was like, here you go. Like didn't even ask me about dates or anything. It was like, I'll put you in contact with all the right people to do it. Because they have offices, and they're a manufacturing company, make metals. And they have offices in 18 different countries.
Wow.
And manufacturing plants in 18 different countries. And so like that summer I worked for a few weeks, I think 2 weeks each in Germany, then France, then back in Germany, a different part of Germany, then Canada, then Mexico, then Enterprise, Alabama, a town of like 300 people. that was my least favorite. Yeah, that was my least favorite.
I'm sure.
But awesome experience, because like just got around. But you meet all these people in college who like do internships in college and therefore aren't as inclined to like go back the next semester, or like when they're in class after that, they're like, this is so boring. I just spent 6 months working, just like full time doing stuff I loved. Now I'm sitting in class again. And like, I kind of knocked that out before college. And it was good and bad to a degree. Because like, I loved it, and I really loved working, and I loved doing all these things I felt were like super valuable, because I was doing lean management, which is like looking at their different manufacturing lines, like these lancing lines producing metals, and saying if you move X parts of the machine around, and if you put this clipboard over here, you're going to save 8 seconds, which is going to produce you however much more every year.
That's like what like McLaren does. Like I know that's like one of their biggest core parts of their business. They'll go in and figure out the inefficiencies of different airports, businesses, stuff like that, and like that's like one of their secret kind of businesses that no one knows about.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
Apparently, isn't Heathrow the one that's London?
Yeah.
Heathrow Airport?
Yeah.
I think it was Heathrow. They went in and were able to increase their productivity by like some insane number. I don't even want to throw a number out there because I'm probably wrong.
Yeah.
But I remember hearing that statistic and I'm like, how is that even possible to increase it by like 75% or whatever it was?
Yeah, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, in such a complex system such as an airport, obviously, is insane.
But
what kind of gave you those qualifications? Like, what even like made this guy think that you were?
Absolutely nothing.
That's so funny.
Absolutely nothing.
So this guy was just your neighbor and he knew you're a smart, bright kid and was just like, I'm going to throw him into this and see if he can figure it out.
But I mean, I didn't really have much direction. So like, there's these two or three different things. One's called like a spaghetti diagram. You basically draw out like everywhere the worker walks. The other one's called a SMED video, SMED. I forget what it stands for at this point, but like you basically take a video of the line, like the manufacturing line, and you spend like the next week listing out every single second. And you'd think the first time you did it, it'd take like a minute. If you really do it, it takes hours. Every single movement this guy has on this machine. And you basically go line by line trying to figure out what you can cut out. And so it's not really, like, I think there are some qualifications you can have, but if you're observant enough and like very detail oriented, which I like to think I am, then you can figure it out. So I spent like the first few days just walking around each facility trying to watch people, and then we would go through these different processes. I only had 2 other guys working with me on it that had worked there already, but it was my project. It was just like for 3 of the countries, this one guy was with me, and for 2 of the other ones in the United States, this other guy was with me. And it was super interesting. Like, I loved manufacturing, like this type of industrious thing.
Yeah.
And all of high school, I had thought I was going to be in like more tech, like apps, websites, stuff like that.
You were like making YouTube videos, making money online.
Exactly. At one point I was going to make an app, and like some competitor came out with like $73 million in funding, and I was just going to like have a friend build it. I was like, yeah, we'll just wait off on that.
It was like the same app, but they just blew up.
Yeah, we'll just, we won't do that.
Just pretend like this didn't happen.
So I was all into like more tech, and then I just loved all this industrious stuff. And so go back to Georgia Tech, and I was like, yeah, I'm doing operations and supply chain. Not a question. That's what I'm going to do.
Because that was the summer before you went to college.
Right before. So
nice. So kind of got your feet wet and you liked it.
I literally flew to Germany and flew back within 48 hours the day before class. Because he was like, nice. You're done. Like, you've got to come back to the main plant in Germany and present what you've done. I was like, oh, great. Because the date he gave me was the day before class. And it was like, the flight from Atlanta to Germany is at 5, and you land at 8 a.m., I think it is, 7 a.m. maybe.
Where were you flying into? Just curious.
Wuppertal or Dusseldorf.
Gotcha.
It's a little bit medium size. And so, like, I got there, and I didn't, I got there, and it was 8 a.m. and the presentation was that day. So like the presentation was at 10. I had just been on a plane all night, like barely slept. I got there at 8, did it, and then the flight back is like, I think it's 6 or 7 p.m. again. And then you land at like 2 a.m. in Atlanta or something like that. And then the next morning was class, and I was just like, this is ridiculous. Like, I went to class the next day, like, yeah, I was in Germany yesterday. Like, oh, wow, you there all summer? No, just yesterday. Like,
literally just there yesterday.
It was crazy. It was not, I mean, I'm sure I technically spanned more than a day, but it felt like a day.
When you do those weird, quick, like, country travels, like, I'm going to spend one day here and then one day there, it's kind of trippy because you're just like, you know, what? Like, cause
you're just like, where am I? Like,
yeah.
What, is this real?
Yeah, because a lot of times when people think of these grandiose trips and they're like, oh, we're going to Germany for a few weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
And like, you know, especially some of the trips I've taken, like where I'm only going for like a weekend or something, and it's like, whoa, I was here like one day and then I was here the next. Like, it's just kind of strange sometimes.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's so different. But so that was the second time.
But you had like double jet lag.
I had like double jet lag. But I guess I almost like never was jet lagged. I was just tired because I was just back in the time zone I was in.
That's
back in Atlanta.
That's a good way of thinking about it, actually.
Well, the worst part was to get to the airport in time, I had to drive back from Florida. So it was like an 8-hour drive to the airport, to a flight to Germany, to a long day, to a flight back to class. And I was just like, I just want this week to be over. This is awful. But it all worked out. I'm still here.
Nice.
But that was the second time I went with that dude to Germany. First time was just for a weekend because he was doing this 24-hour race on the Nürburgring, kind of like the 24-hour day of Le Mans. And so I went.
That's legendary, man.
Yeah, it was so much fun. Dude has more cool cars than I can imagine. I literally, my bed for the night, because I couldn't stay up because I had flown there to a race. My bed for the night was running. Yes, I know, awful for the environment. Everyone would be mad at me, whatever. It was so hot outside. It was a running, brand new, like 400 miles on it, S63. And I was just like, it has like pillows on the headrest. I was like, I'm just gonna sleep in here, dude. Can I have your car keys? I'm going to bed out there. But that was like senior year, so that's kind of maybe why he trusted me to do the job. But yeah, I got back to Georgia Tech, loved it. While I was working with him over there, all sorts of cool car experiences that we could talk about for forever. Like, like a C63 Black Series. I got to drive his on the Autobahn at like 175.
That's so sick.
It's so much fun. We went in his S63, 198 on
this
the Autobahn.
This is a Mercedes, by the way.
Mercedes. Yes. Like the normal four-door Mercedes you see, but the AMG extended wheelbase version.
It's kind of a sleeper.
It's such a sleeper. That car is so fast.
Yeah.
198. And I was like, can you just hit 200? And he was like, no, the tires are limited. I think I said this in the VinWiki video. It's like the tires are limited to 315. I looked over at like 316. It was like, so you're going this fast, but you're too scared to go 2 miles an hour more. Like, should we really be going this fast then? If these tires are like limited to the exact speed we're going.
That's so funny.
Yeah, ridiculous.
It's crazy when you get up to super high speeds like that, how the littlest things can, like, you wouldn't think that the tires are the thing that's holding you back. You'd think like the engine isn't powerful, right? Like,
no, but it's the smallest things. Like, 'cause, I mean, this guy is so intense about everything. He sent me when, unfortunately, Paul Walker crashed. Once again, the VinWiki video was about me driving his Carrera GT. So we had like this Carrera GT bond. He sent me like a breakdown, second by second, of what happens in the video of Paul Walker. And like, because you can see the tree hit and fall over. And he was talking to me about it. He was like, yeah, so if it's at like 3 seconds, this happens, whatever. Then like, I think if I calculate it's like however many G's he hit, like of course that's instantaneous death. And I was like, I don't think the news has even done this yet. Like, dude, are you being serious right now?
That's so crazy.
But that's what you got to be like if you're driving those cars that fast and like a race driver like him. Like it's so important when those things happen. Because he always talks to me about like, he used to talk to me about like throttle percentage and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. It's most of the way down.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta really, if you're talking about throttle percentage, you gotta really know where the deepest part is, man.
I don't know. It's somewhere down there.
That's funny.
Feel free to ask anything. I don't mean to just be talking about my life.
No, I love it. So we were talking about, this internship, and then you started to go to Georgia Tech. So when did Stored come into this? Because obviously this is like a big part of the story.
So freshman year, first semester, I just was like, honestly bored out of my mind. Everything's so easy. I hate to rag on Georgia Tech, especially if you're a business student. It's really not that difficult. I think the first day the person told me, like, if you're a business student, you can easily get a 4.0 or higher, or I guess not higher, that's in high school, 4.0 if you just like go to class and do the work. And it was so true. I was like, this is kind of boring. Unfortunately, my only qualm with that semester was that Georgia Tech has you sign up with students who tell you like what you're supposed to sign up for when you visit for like the campus tour day classes. And whatever student, I've never seen them again, who I was with, told me I was required to take linear algebra, which is like one of the harder math classes at the school, and put me in the class with this guy named Professor Geronimo, he's known as the Four Horsemen, like lowest four grade point averages at the school. He's at like a 2 point something in his class.
His average?
Yeah. And so like I had the worst math experience.
Is he a bad teacher? His class is just really hard?
So bad. I think the average on the first exam was like first quiz was like a 27. It's just so bad. So I was like, I get what these engineering students are going through. Like, it all makes sense now. I'd met people with like 1 point something GPAs, and I was like, how is that possible? Well, I had a teacher like this. I was like, okay, that makes sense.
I like how in college they tell you like the breakdowns and the averages of the class.
Yeah, they're just like, it's
like in
really,
high school, it's
really
kind of all
bad.
about yeah. Like I feel like in high school, it's kind of all about like personal stuff, and they're not going to announce like, well, this teacher has the worst GPA of everyone or whatever.
Well, the funniest is one of my professors would like in high school, in college, he'd write out. It was like an English class, so it was really small. He'd write out all the grades to show you like where you would fall, like every grade someone got. And then he'd hand out your paper or whatever it was in the order he just called them out, like wrote them from highest to lowest.
Oh, that's
so it's like, I wonder what these grades are, who got what. But yeah,
so you could just watch him
just like, okay,
go down the line.
Like my name hasn't been called, I'm a little worried. But yeah, so freshman year, I was actually still working at the company. I will omit the name when it occurred. This idea to me, I was looking at all these posts, super cheesy. It was just like all those posts about the sharing economy, which at the time was like, it still is, but at the time, especially like 2 or 3 years ago, it was like huge, brand new. Everyone was starting to talk about it.
And for people who like are listening and they're not familiar with that concept, what is like the sharing economy?
So like the idea of you can rent space in people's homes through Airbnb or like other. So the post,
Uber.
I literally remember the post. I was on Instagram. It was like, Netflix does whatever many billions. They don't produce any videos. Amazon does whatever. They don't own any inventory. Airbnb does, I think it was like $1 billion or $2 billion in revenue at the time.
They don't own any property.
They don't own any property. It just kept going. And I was like, this makes so much sense. And I don't remember what it was. I was just like going through this list, like what is next along this list? And at the time, my idea was parking. I was like, what if you could rent like parking spaces in people's driveways? So like I go up to a Braves stadium, I can just park in the dude's driveway right across from the stadium. I was like, that'd be so convenient. So I founded this company, didn't do parking. I actually ended up on self-storage because of all the people around me in college, like having to leave for the summer, needing a place to put their stuff. And so I was like, what if you could do consumer storage, like your belongings, instead of in self-storage units, you could utilize like people's garages, empty closets, stuff like that, as just like space around you. And so like I started working on this. I feel like I got a lot of encouragement right away. So still, I think doing the right things, like reaching out to mentors, stuff like that, which was very helpful. And I went about this path for like, I don't know, a few months, and I was getting some paying customers, which is always the hard part. Because especially in a sharing economy, you got to build density. So like you have to have space to have people to rent it, but you have to have renters to have people to give you space. And so it's like a super hard problem to solve.
Getting from 0 to 1 is always the hardest thing.
It was so hard. But the first indication was like, I'd always try to do like minimum viable product. So start with nothing and see if you can get someone to pay you for it. And so I just posted this idea like stored as blank and we have space here on Craigslist. And within 3 hours, it was like someone, and no one else was renting storage space on Craigslist. In like 3 hours, someone like booked it, like called me and was like, I want it. I was like, oh, there might be something here. Like, this is kind of cool. Overall, there were like a lot of problems with the model. Wasn't my passion. I had just come from like this almost like logistics, supply chain type stuff. I was doing kind of like this dirty business, like people's stuff. And it wasn't,
kind of a weird thing.
It wasn't my favorite thing. But we were doing all right. And so back to mentorship, like I said, I've just always reached out to people. Like, I don't care if I see you once on, kind of like you did to me. Like, I don't care if I see you once on a YouTube video or like an Instagram. If I think you're cool or like have something to add, I'm going to shoot you a message and like try to connect with you and learn something from you, get something from you. And so there's a super cool company out of Chattanooga called Bellhops. They do like, anyone can be a mover for college moving labor.
I've seen them actually.
Yeah, they're awesome company.
At a music festival, because people have to go from their car to their camping spot and they have to lug all their stuff. So Bellhops was there.
Really? That's
moving
awesome.
people's stuff, yeah.
I didn't know they did stuff like that. But in my mind, it was like...
Might have been a one-off kind of thing.
they do a lot of interesting things. But in my mind, was like, these guys are applying college students to moving labor. And sorry, I'm just...
No, it's okay, because I know we got to get out of here at, what, 10?
Yeah. If we're not done, there's like some seats outside. If we have to wrap up for like 10 minutes or whatever. I think we'll be fine. And so there's this college, I was like, these guys are doing moving labor utilizing other people, sharing economy. They're basically almost like brokering these guys. And so I reached out to them. Once again, I'll probably omit a few names just for personality or personal information reasons. I reached out to them, got super connected, and just so nice and accepting. We're like, we got to introduce you to these guys in Chattanooga who helped us get off the ground. And I never even met them. And that's not true. They didn't say, you got to meet these guys in Chattanooga. They just said, come meet us in Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is only like an hour and a half away. And so I went up and met them one weekend, and the meeting turned out to be in the investor's office who first invested in them, like helped them get off the ground, gave them a good amount of money. I don't think it's publicly disclosed how much. And like really mentored them. They worked out of their offices for 2 years, and they told me to meet them at that address. I was like completely blindsided, just like in a polo shirt coming up to meet these guys. I was like, oh,
these are the investors.
Yeah, we'll talk. But I think just really hit it off with these guys. And so like it ended up being a super long meeting with these guys I'd never met before. The Bellhops guys actually left, and I just ended up hanging out with these investors for a while. They had started a really cool trucking company back in the day, grown it to like $500 million in revenue over 8 years, and merged it with another logistics company, sold it to UPS for, I think it was $1.3 billion, just like ridiculous exit in 2014. So they're like fresh off of it, investing in all these companies. And they were like, we're going to start, and it's super nice. They were like, really innovative to Chattanooga. They're bringing all this tech to Chattanooga, all these startups to Chattanooga. They own all these apartment buildings specifically for like co-working type stuff, and just super cool program. And it wasn't even disclosed yet. No one knew about it. They're really well known in Chattanooga. And they were like, by the way, we're going to launch an accelerator. And for those of you who don't know, accelerator is like, come to our program for 3 months, you get this much money, and full-time in our offices. We're bringing in a bunch of mentors, investors. We want to really just try to help you like get off the ground fast in 3 months.
Just like curb the learning process and get you to something viable.
Yeah, screw
quickly.
the like 5 years it normally takes someone to get from nothing to like some sort of tangible business. Like we want to get you guys launched and paying customers by the end of these 3 months. And luckily for them, what most accelerators don't do is like industry focus. So like they're just, if you're a technology company, you come here. But these guys were so good about being, we're a logistics accelerator, only logistics. And so they could really tailor their help and mentorship to people who are doing logistics. Problem was, I was the least logistics-based company at the time. I had found a co-founder, brought him on, and we had been working for, I think 2 months now when I met them, or maybe a month together. And I was like, hey, by the way, I found we might have to move to Chattanooga. I found some guys I really like. And so they launched this program. We were accepted to it, just kept in really close touch with them. Such a good mentor to this date. And we went to this program in Chattanooga, this accelerator, and we immediately were around these companies like GE, UPS being mentors, and nobody had any idea about consumer storage. They were like, okay, interesting. By the way, the problems you guys are talking about in capacity are huge problems in our warehouses, like very prevalent problems. And so we're like, okay, cool, yeah, that's not what we do. And kept kind of ignoring it until one day we were just
Do you think they were trying to drop a hint, or were they just telling you this?
Well, they didn't. I mean, it's not like they know this is the business. They're just like, hey, by the way, that's like, that kind of applies to what's going on with us. And people kept saying it to us. And so eventually, I guess we got the hint. And the scariest thing to do in a business is pivot, especially once you've hit the hardest part, which is like some revenue. Because like going from a few $1,000s a month in revenue, which with the consumer business is like pretty considerable for like a 6 months old startup, to saying, we literally went to all of our customers and we're like, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. Like you're fired as a customer. Like,
customers aren't used to that, by the way.
We can't take your stuff anymore. You got to take this back. They're like, are are you serious? Like, what do you mean? I just like trusted you as a company. Is not easy.
Could they have reached out to the hypothetical people that they were renting that storage from and did a deal without you guys as the middleman kind of thing? Or
Yeah, so they could have, but what we did is we found a company that, can't say their name, but they were kind of like on-demand storage. They'd come pick up your stuff, store it off-site, and ship it back
pods
to you.
or whatever.
Yeah, a little bit,
Something.
but more like just boxes of stuff.
Gotcha.
Newer, like Uber-like for storage.
I see.
And we were like, yeah, we will try to convince all of our customers to let you to use your service if you like give them the same price they're already using or whatever. So they took pretty much all of our customers, maybe one or two, just like got their stuff back. And so then here we were like a few weeks into this program. Everyone else is like far along. We're like, I guess we're going to do something with warehouses now, right?
Yeah.
So keep in mind.
So the problem that these people were having...
I kind of left out the Georgia Tech parts.
Yeah.
So spring of Georgia Tech, I actually took an internship semester for Stored and worked on the business. Somehow I got credit. So very nice, worked out. Then the summer I wasn't in class, so this program ran through the summer. And the problem is you can't do 2 consecutive semesters not in class unless you have like an internship or something like that. So over the summer, we were technically getting a credit for being in this program called Startup Summer at Georgia Tech, which like helps you launch a business. And they were super nice to us, super helpful. We did a lot of mentorship with them, but we were actually living in Chattanooga. So luckily we got the credit. We're in Chattanooga. And so at this point I've been out for 2 semesters, just kind of working. And we started chugging along, I guess. So the eventual idea into what Stored is now, I don't have to go through like every single step, because it'll be, anyone who's listening trying to start a business, it'll be different. If you're still listening, feel free to reach out to me. Happy to actually talk about it. But really, like, first they just had us, they were really good at cold calling. That was their business. Like, let's sell trucking, call every business in the world, sell them some trucking. And so they were like, you guys aren't going to cold call customers, but call every warehouse you can find, see if they're interested in like you utilizing their excess capacity. And we didn't get a single no to that proposition. Like, everyone was like, oh yeah, sure, that sounds awesome. Like, let me know.
Yeah, we've got tons of extra space or whatever.
Yeah, so we kind of shifted the model into something where it's like the capacity really wants this, and we can go find the capacity. It's not like we just have to wait for people with basements to sign up. Like, we can go down the list and approach them.
And I feel like that's just such a cleaner like thing to jump into, because like the basement thing, you're dealing with people and all. It's like with the warehouse thing.
It got to be such a mess.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And so eventually what it evolved into is basically we now have almost like a warehouse management system where you can monitor inventory, ordering your products, and we use that technology to bind together hundreds of warehouses across the country. We know their capacity, their pricing. We have standard operating procedures in them for like shipping and receiving. And so we basically are a third party to these hundreds of warehouses. And so we can approach businesses and sell them national warehousing anywhere they need it, very dynamically. Like, if you need product in Florida or Oakland, California, like, we're your guy either way, and you're always going to manage it through the same software.
Wow.
One of the big things is that, one, pricing and warehousing it's not there. Like, nobody knows what it's supposed to be. You go warehouse to warehouse across the street are like 40% different in price. So we bring a lot of transparency to them in price. And then the second is, you wouldn't believe it, like our investors didn't believe it, no one believed it at first. These warehouses who are it's a $163 billion industry, it's massive.
The warehouse industry?
Yeah, consumer self-storage, for example, is $20 billion. Wow. Warehousing is 163.
Wow.
Globally, and so
makes more sense though, because they got a lot more product to hold.
So much more product, and I mean, like, everything you see in this room right now was at one point in a warehouse. Everything goes from a manufacturing facility to a warehouse to a port, shipped here to a warehouse until it goes to your retail store to you, or in a warehouse,
or direct to consumer, or whatever.
But if that, it's in a warehouse and then they ship it out to you. Pretty much every product goes through a warehouse.
Yeah.
And no one thinks about it. No one sees it. Like, same with logistics. Trucking is one of the largest industries. It's like a $1.3 trillion global industry, and like nobody talks about it because it's just like you just see trucks driving by
Yeah,
you.
like a huge percentage of males, working class males in America, are in some sort of transport industry.
I've seen that. It's like
It's
almost
a ridiculous
a majority.
percentage.
It might be a
it's
majority.
It's like 40 or 50% of like working class males are in some sort of transport industry.
I didn't believe the statistic the first time I saw it. I was like, that can't be real.
It's pretty absurd.
But the part no one believed us about was that all this warehousing, and it's all run off, almost all of it is run off of emails, phone calls, spreadsheets, faxes. There's technology within the warehouse so they can monitor like their product flow, but there's no interaction components. Like, I'm a company, how do I deal with my product there? So GE was like, we have product in all these different, GE's not a customer, I'm not making that affiliation, just from an advice perspective, people we knew there were like, we have product in all these different warehouses, but there's a big disconnect between how we monitor it, where we know our inventory is, et cetera. And so we were like, okay, by consolidating capacity and bringing it a singular layer of technology to make orders, monitor your inventory, stuff like that, we can bring a huge advantage. Now the hard part, when I say that was like 3 hours, the last customer, getting your first business-to-business customer, like a business to pay you for something, is like the hardest thing to do. It took like, I want to say a month or two. It was just so hard.
Because most of the time they already have some sort of solution.
They have their own solution. They don't know who you are. The big thing about storage, and especially warehousing, is that they have to entrust you to ship you product. Like their physical goods, they got to be like, who's this guy that just reached out to me, emailed me, called me, whatever, I saw their ad, and they want me to send them my product. Like, okay, I got to really trust these guys. And so it was interesting. It was so hard to get a customer. Went through demo day, which is like where you do pitches at the end. We're just starting to get our first paying customers. We ended up raising some money after demo day. We were coming off with some traction. Dynamo ran overlap with the fall semester. So I wasn't in school fall semester. So this is like a year out, but I had just gotten, I think, like 5 credits or something during that period that was like basically made me equivalent with AP credits from high school to where I should be anyways, but like maybe minus 2 or 3.
So you weren't super behind even though you hadn't been in school for a decent amount of time.
Not super behind. Maybe like most people joke at Georgia Tech like 4 to 6 years. Like maybe I'll have to do 4 in a semester maximum if something goes wrong. But who knows? And so I was out for 3 straight semesters and just full on working. But loved it. So we ended. We actually raised money from some different people here in Atlanta afterwards. So we were just going back to Atlanta. Today we've raised like just under $250,000, which is not crazy from the startup world, but at this point, if you also consider the pivot where we basically started a new business, we're only like a year old right now.
That's awesome.
So not crazy old. And so we just raised some money, and being in Atlanta, cost of living is cheap compared to like Silicon Valley where people raise crazy amounts of money. Cost of hiring is cheap. And so we've just been chugging away. Luckily, we've gotten multiple publicly traded companies utilizing our service now, like multiple startups, all sorts of sort of over the range. And we're just big on like implementing the technology, making sure it works so that we can monitor product flow and stuff like that across the country, and starting to see like bigger and bigger and bigger customer interest to like enterprise level client. How do they utilize us across the country? So it's becoming super interesting, but at the same time, like spring semester, I went back to school. Basically for the past, I've only done 2 semesters now since then, sort of spring and summer I didn't do it. Now it just started fall. But both semesters, basically, I do like somewhere between 8 to 12 in the morning on like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So right now, 8 to 12, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 12 to 1, Tuesday, Thursday. And that's still like 15 hours, I want to say, or 16, which is like most of my friends are taking 12 or 13. And then besides that, it's just like, I don't know, it's what, 9:30 p.m. right now. Still here at the office, and so just working and in school is a lot harder than you.
Definitely balancing both of those is huge. Obviously, like right now, a lot of people would be saying, "Dude, why are you still in school, man? Like you're running this business. Like seems like it's going well." I mean, obviously, what's still like motivating you to finish it out? Obviously, because a lot of people would say, dude, just keep doing what you're doing, whatever.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get the question a lot. I think a lot of people would ask it too, but not make the same decision if they were in the position. As a company, I think we're still at a point where like it doesn't hurt that I almost feel like a part-time student. Like I'm never on campus. I still work more hours than like a normal 9 to 5, and like we get a lot done. And so like, I don't know, to me it's just the perspective is if I can do X amount and still get them both done for now, it makes sense. Like I said, how often am I gonna have the opportunity to not only not pay, but even sometimes get paid a little bit per semester to like be in class versus if I was paying a significant amount to go to college, absolutely, like I would not be in that at all. But at the same time, it's like, how can I, it's hard to say, how can I like turn down what else I could be doing at the company? But I think you can ask anyone else here. It doesn't really limit me yet. Maybe as we continue to grow, it might. But 2, what is the factor that I'm turning down if I leave the school for now? And so like our primary investor is a huge Georgia Tech guy. He actually like dropped out his first semester at Tech, so like he identified with me well. But like I've had the conversation a lot with people like that about where it puts us, and it's just kind of like for now until I think we're ready to just like blow up at some explosive growth curve, like maybe go on to like a more larger round of financing, venture capital. Until then, it's like if I can knock out a first few hours of the day or just 1 hour midday of like free education at a school like Georgia Tech, which I think is great, it's just a really hard decision to like say no to. And I don't know. I like doing a lot of things. And so I kind of like, at some degree of me likes doing both, and some degree of me hates doing both.
Yeah. That makes sense, because a lot of times if you keep your schedule so packed, like there's always something to do, and there's like not enough hours in the day kind of, you get a lot more done than if you have all day to do one thing.
I swear I do way more things when I have like a packed schedule. Like I find time to do more interesting things.
Because you really narrow down your...
You don't like sit around. It's like, I gotta go.
Exactly. I totally agree with that. Like some days, like on Sundays, like I'm, way less busy, and I have like 3 things I want to knock out, and then it's like 5 p.m. and I'm like, where did the whole freaking day go? And I haven't even knocked out one of these things yet.
Yeah, exactly. It can be ridiculous, but I don't have a lot of time to do that, which is good though. I like it.
You're like, dude, what is free time?
Always
like,
doing
I don't
something.
Have that.
Yeah, and then like every few weekends, like I fly to DC because my girlfriend lives in DC, and so like most weekends I don't even have the weekend. Or stuff like that. So I don't know. I like it though. It's fun.
That's awesome,
man. I think like obviously you're doing stuff outside of work, like keeping your schedule busy with things you really like are passionate about is fun.
Yeah.
And
you got to make sacrifices too. Yeah.
And so like
for sure.
half of my free time is just packed with cars. Like we never even talked about like the VinWiki videos, cars, stuff like that. Like ever since high school, then at the same time, it's like I was brokering cars. And my siblings all got like a nominal normal car budget. I like took advantage of that and was like, well, I know how to broker cars. I've been making pretty good money. Like if that plus what like many of my siblings got, which is like not an arguable budget, like a normal car budget, like I can probably get a 911. So like I got a 911, ended up unfortunately getting in an accident, other person's fault. Hilarious.
If you want to hear the story, you can totally go watch it on YouTube.
Totally go watch it.
I'm going to make sure to link all those VinWiki videos in the...
Yeah,
if you don't mind, obviously.
No, they're awesome.
Because actually, I'll explain this in the intro and stuff, but that's how I even discovered you and all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in hearing his car stories, go check out the YouTube videos. They're actually really good.
Yeah, definitely. But that was a bad accident. It was during Dynamo, the accelerator in Chattanooga. And so like So many random tangential things. I had a concussion from that.
Wow.
I've had 5 documented concussions from car accidents, high school basketball, stuff like that. And it's been bad. I think my brain's still okay. but they're not fun because it's like the first one you get, you're way more likely to get them. So the first one, someone passed a ball in basketball and I jumped like as high as I could to catch it. Some dude completely took out my legs, landed like legitimately on my head, and it was bad. Like couldn't move my neck pretty much, not like broken, just like so whiplashed. Jeez. And was out of it. But so I got in a crash. Other person's fault. Hilariously, the cop, there was that VinWiki video Ed was talking to me about, like half the comments are like, oh, come on, like I'm sure he crashed it, stuff like that. But like hilariously, the car behind the person that hit me was a police officer. I think I might say that in there. So it was like, it's all on video. There was no like argument at all whose fault it was. I was just like casually driving home at like 40 miles an hour and just like, bam, someone hit me. But I like, from there, I ended up making a lot of money on the car itself, not on like medical or anything like that. I was fine. But on
the insurance money from the car.
Because they have to buy the car like a fair market price.
And Porsches hold their value.
And they really do. And I like did my same broker stuff, got it like way down. And then ever since then, just I flip cars and I like, it makes some people question and like those VinWiki videos, like why are you 19, 20 and have a 911? But like, it's really not that crazy of a car. And like, it's pretty attainable if that's like the one thing you're focusing on. And that's what you have like a skill set around.
Well, I think, man, it's all about, everyone wants to create limitations on you. Like, and I was actually having a conversation with some of my coworkers earlier today, and they were just kind of talking. I know we got to wrap this up pretty quick.
We're just gonna get like the alarm's gonna go off if we move out there. If it's like after 10.
We're gonna wrap this up in the next 5 minutes. But people are, they were just like casually like, what's one of your life dreams or whatever? And I was like, I kind of said like a whole bunch of stuff, and I walked in late on the conversation, and like their things that they said were like not that crazy, and they were kind of like, well, when you achieve those things, don't forget about us or something like that. Yeah. And I was thinking like a lot of kids your age, man, they're just not like shooting that high or whatever, or they see like a 911 and they see that that's like, oh, that's like a car for a dentist or something,
Yeah,
and so they don't think it's achievable, and so they don't set that as their goal.
Yeah,
in the first place.
And then the difference is like we were talking about iPhones. It's like if you think tangibly, this is what I'm trying to get, and you like actually lay out whatever it is, process steps. Like there are people who work $70,000 a year jobs who have Lamborghinis because like that's what they dedicate their money and their time to figuring out how to do. Mm-hmm. It's not that crazy. Like theoretically, anyone with a normal livable wage job could afford a Lamborghini if that's like what they wanted, if that's all they focused on, and they knew about financing, they knew about how to like get the car for a really good price. You can do 144 month financing on an exotic car and end up paying like $700 a month. And it's like, most people can do that if that's what they're putting their mind to.
You really want a Lambo.
Exactly. And so like, I don't know, it makes a lot of people mad, but like at the same time, one of my most profitable things besides Stored is, like one of my most profitable businesses ever is like flipping cars, flipping watches, like buying and selling things I really like, and knowing how to do it because that's what you spend all your time like researching. So there's always fun things if you like have a passion about them. Well, there's always some way to make money off of them. And like most people would see the car or like see something specific and like categorize it as something negative or categorize it as like
frivolous,
that's a stupid expense. I'm like, I drive that car like more than you drive your car. Like I just put however many miles on it. Like I'll take it in the dirt. I don't care. Like I'm here to have fun in it. And then people just like think it's, I don't know, over the top. It's like, if you really look into these vehicles and stuff like this, you'll realize how attainable things are if you like are actually looking to get that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So to wrap things up, if you have, obviously there's a lot of people that are listening to this that are kind of our age, and they're probably just like, geez, dude, this guy's already light years ahead of me as far as like achieving things and doing stuff and like, all this stuff. And they're just like, what the heck, where do I even start? Like, what kind of tangible advice can you give to someone out there that's like, shooting for they really want to get to a higher place, but they just don't even really know where to begin or what to do? Like,
yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, my big thing I always say, I'd probably say like three things. And keep in mind, advice, here's a piece of advice. Advice, don't take it, just like listen to it and decide if you want to act on it. Because
everyone's got an opinion.
No one knows the best advice for you. I don't know the best advice for anyone listening. Like, I don't think I'm right. It's just like what I believe.
Is that the thing?
Did you just hear that?
I just heard a beep. I think we've got like 7 minutes. Let's wrap this up in 1 minute.
We'll see. If we leave, they'll be none the wiser. If the alarm goes off, who knows? And so, so the few things I would say is like, one, just start. Like, nobody starts. Everyone aims for these really high things, and they're like, I can never do that, and they just get buried under the idea of how do I do that, and they never start doing anything. They just get, I don't know, stuck in watching other people do stuff. But just start doing it. Two is like, reach out to as many people as possible. So honestly, I feel like in regards to doing things, knowing people, I feel like if I'm not meeting new people, reaching out, like putting out new like LinkedIn connection request messages, I feel like I'm going backwards, because it's like I need to be meeting new people to get new opportunities and things like that. So like, reach out to as many people as possible, because they're the ones that are going to help you. And like, most people, like me, if anyone's listening, are happy to provide you introductions to people they know who might actually be applicable to what you're doing. And finally, I just say like, do something as tangible as possible. Because like, it kind of goes back to the first one. Most people focus on like, how do I become the next Mark Zuckerberg or something like that? And like, that's not what I'm interested in. And this is advice from like, more like a Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm not like original on this. It's just like, everyone wants to be the end goal of this one person or this type of person, but there's like so many more practical things you can do to research cryptocurrency, research something interesting that can make you some more money. If you love cars, don't just like go to car shows and go home and be like, God, that was so cool. Try to meet the people and be like, how did you buy this car? Like, what do you do? Go look up the car you like and figure out how expensive is that car actually. If you see a Maserati that's like $150,000, odds are you can go on eBay right now and find one for like $40,000 from the right person. Or like Quattraport, you can buy one of those for like $15,000 if you really want.
Yeah, it'll be a sinkhole of your wallet, but you can buy those on the cheap for sure.
So cheap, and nobody knows or cares. And so like, just tangibly figure out like practical, what can you do to like make more money or get more involved in the things you actually really like? Because instead of just like watching them, like, how do you go be like Brett David and like start posting pictures of cars and get involved instead of just like staring at his Instagram every day like, this guy's so cool.
So true.
Like, go down there and do something.
Like, it's not that you're not anyone special, you're just obscure. Like, no one even knows who the heck you are. You're just lost in the sea of obscurity.
Exactly. That's why doing a podcast is awesome, because then everyone knows who you are.
So true. Well, that's a good place to wrap it up. If people want to talk to you or chat with you, where's the best place where they can contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, find me on LinkedIn. Just type in Sean Henry Stored, or Sean at Stored, SEAN at Stored.co.
There we go.
So email me, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever it is. Happy to talk.
Awesome. That's the second time people have plugged their LinkedIn. I like that.
It's a good place to connect. I mean,
LinkedIn is getting hot. I feel like LinkedIn is getting hot.
I'm happy to chat.
That's awesome, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for being on the podcast, and we'll see you later, folks. There you have it, folks. That ending was pretty funny. We were trying to get out of the building so quick before that alarm went off. We knew that we only had a few minutes before the building was going to lock down, but I want to thank Sean again for being on the podcast. I definitely want to wish him luck in all of his future endeavors. If you're in need of warehouse solutions, you should definitely get in touch with his company, Stored. That's STORD. And what they're doing, disrupting the warehouse market, is really, really impressive. And their product is really providing value for tons of companies around the country. So definitely check that out if you're in need of any warehouse solutions. But episode 43 is up next with my good friend Anthony Assad. And Anthony is a power lifter and a personal trainer, and he's just got a huge heart. This dude is almost as strong as his passion for fitness. And he's really passionate about helping other people achieve their goals. A lot of personal trainers might just kind of view what they do as a normal job, but for Anthony, it is a lifestyle for sure. And we met up in his home gym for an awesome conversation. I think I may have laughed harder on this episode than any of the other ones so far. We were just cracking up at some of the stuff we were talking about, and we also got pretty deep into religion and a couple other subjects, but you definitely won't want to miss that episode. It was a total blast, and I think a lot of people will really enjoy listening to that one. If you want to support the podcast, and you like what I'm trying to do here, you like this episode, the best thing you can do is share it with a friend. I know a lot of guys out there are probably listening to this, and you got a lot of value from this episode. And if you know someone else who might want to listen to this episode, then please share it with them. The best way that this podcast is going to grow is through word of mouth. But the other way that it can get discovered is through iTunes. iTunes happens to be the number one place where podcasts are discovered. So if you feel like being awesome, please go to the iTunes store or the podcast app on your iPhone and leave me a 5-star review and let me know what you like about the podcast. Leave me a little feedback in there. That goes a long way. I read all the comments that get put on the reviews there on iTunes. Like I said, having lots of 5-star reviews and comments is crucial for me to getting discovered more on the iTunes store. iTunes is the number one place for podcasts to be discovered, so I would really, really appreciate a good review there. And if you want to follow me, you can go to my website, andrewdeitsch.com. That's Andrew, DEITSCH.com. And you can find links to all of my social media handles and accounts and all that kind of good stuff. But that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for listening. If you're listening to the sound of my voice right now, you guys are the best. You're the reason why I keep doing what I'm doing, pumping out more episodes. I have a lot of really, really great episodes in the tank that should be coming out very shortly. So stay tuned, and I will see you guys in the next one.